I would like to welcome you all back to the IE427 garage. Today we're working on the cooling system. We've got some work to get the radiator in. We've got to figure out what the hose configuration on the cooling system is going to be. We also are going to be adding fluid to the transmission and to the rear end assembly. So stick with us and we'll start getting you all caught up. Alright, here's an easy way to fill your transmission, and it doesn't matter if it's a Tremec, whether it's the old Borg-Warner T5. What you're going to do is you're going to pull the fill plug out, position your drip pan below where it's going to dribble out of there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go up on the top. You're going to pull the shifter out. In this case, we're actually going to pull the inspection plate off the center of this TKX. We're actually going to fill from up there. All right, I don't know if I went through this before, but we actually had to open up this transmission at the mid plate once before, because when the transmission shipped, somehow it took, I don't know that it took a hit, but it got handled in a way that popped it into one of the gears. And I don't remember if it was first gear or second. But the shifter itself was stuck. You couldn't move the shifter in any position. And so what we had to do is we had to pull this mid plate off. And we had to go in here, and we actually had to move one of the shafts to get it back into the neutral position. You can see it's in the neutral position now. Both of the shafts are at the same point. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually fill the transmission through this mid plate. Once we start to see some transmission fluid dribbling out of the fill plug, then we know it's full. We put the plug back in. We put the mid plate back on, the cover. And that's it. So you can see we just started to get some of the fluid into the pan. Not a whole lot. As soon as we heard it dripping, raised the car up, got the drain plug back in, and we're good. So what I'm going to do, since I'm under here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill the rear end. Can you see that? Let me move this. I'm going to fill the rear end. That's going to fill right here. And what I'm going to do on that is I'm actually going to take the bottles. There's a little spout on the end of the bottles. And I'm going to jam a piece of tubing over the top of that. And then I'm going to use basically the bottle of fluid as like a squeeze bottle. I'm just going to squeeze the bottle. It's going to push the fluid in. And then I'm just going to fill the rear end housing the same way. I'm going to just fill until it starts coming out of the fill plug, and then it's done. Put the plug back in, and that'll be good. I do have to add the friction modifier to the rear end, and I'm going to be doing that first. I may even throw it in the bottle of fluid before I start, because it'll just make getting it in there just that much easier, because the bottle is just one of those little ones. But anyways, so that's that. And then while it's up here, I do have, I think I'm going to take the thermostat housing apart. I'm going to see if I can turn this spout the other way around or turn it another way. If not, I'm just going to have to leave it where it is. But what I've got to do is I've got to get this, got to get a hose in here to get this over to the radiator somewhere over in here. And I ordered a collection of hoses I've got one so far, this, and I'm gonna see what I can do to get, how did I have this up in there? Basically something like this out to here. So something like that. We're gonna see, have to see how that goes, because I moved to the front of the car. As you can see, I have the radiator kind of mounted right now. I've got the top fastened in with the hinge assembly from Breeze Automotive. Those come from our buddy Mark Reynolds. And what I'm working on now is I'm working on getting the angle of the radiator correct. So this is how I do it. It's still going to be adjustable. We're going to be using the Breeze lower mount. So it gives you a little bit, probably about a 3 to 5 degree angle of error. So if you are out one way or another, you can usually, swing it one way or the other to get it just the way you want. But what I use is a piece of the nose aluminum to get my angle. So basically this front edge is going to want to be flat against here, and this flat edge is going to want to be flat against the radiator. Now, keep in mind when you do this, that aluminum is all based on putting the radiator in exactly how Factory 5 describes in their assembly manual. And that does not include a hinged top. They have you put bolts through the radiator and into the lower tab that has to be removed in order to put this hinge assembly in. It also doesn't take into consideration a lower support. It counts on you using the actual nose aluminum, those side pieces, to hold the radiator in place, because you will rivet in the bottom piece along the bottom edge. That bottom piece gets riveted into the side pieces, and the side pieces then get riveted into the side here. That's what holds the radiator into position. In this case, we're only using the aluminum to finish off the inside of the nose, and we're not even going to be using this stuff. We're actually going to cut a one-piece aluminum surround for the nose of this car. In the past, we've used the one-piece aluminum from Mike Everson at Replica Parts, and it's just gotten so expensive to ship that part that the shipping is nearly the cost of the part. And even Mike, the last time I talked to him, he says that his sales on those, especially to the West Coast, have gone down because the shipping just kills it. So we are going to make our own, and we're going to put it in there. But regardless of that, we're going to use the stock Factory 5 nose aluminum to get this angle set right. Now you can see I've used some zip ties, some long zip ties, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly pull that radiator up into the position where both the front and the back of this aluminum piece meet our criteria for the angle that we need. And then I'm going to go ahead and hold it in place with the zip tie, and I'm going to start installing the Breeze lower mount that goes in between this frame rail here and that frame rail over there. And so I don't know that I'm going to take you through this step by step. Mark's instructions that come with both of these pieces, the upper and the lower support, are pretty explanatory, and he even provides pictures, especially for this top piece, to let you know what the sequence of bolting it all together are. Now, since we're using a universal radiator in this case, I ended up having to cut my own spacers for the top because the ones that Mark provided just weren't long enough. But that has nothing to do with Mark. That has to do with the fact that we're not using the Factory 5 radiator here because they're still not available. I will show you, we did have the radiator welded, and so we had the fill cap on this side removed. We had a plate welded in on the top, and you can see the welder did a real nice job. And then we installed a bung here on the upper driver's side. And this tube is going to go from the radiator to our surge tank, and that's going to allow any of the air that gets trapped in the system to work its way back to the surge tank. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start working on that lower mount, and I'll probably bring you guys back when I've got that installed. So what I did is I ended up moving the zip tie to the other side, and you can see the way I did it. I just kind of wrapped it around the bottom outlet, and now I've got this aluminum, so it's flush with the front. It's flush with the actual radiator where the broken edge is of the aluminum. And if you can see back here, it's lined up with the holes. So it's right about where Factory 5 tells you to put it. It's not perfect. The nose aluminum never is. You can make it work. I prefer other options. I will install it when that's what customers want. As a matter of fact, I think we installed the Factory 5 nose aluminum on one of the cars that just left here not too long ago, and it looks fine. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get set up to do this bottom support, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up so it's right in the middle of where the like the pendulum point of it would swing, so that if I have to raise the front of the radiator up at the bottom, then I have that, and if I have to bring it down a little bit to change the angle down, I'll be able to do that as well. And that's the trick. Don't mount that nose aluminum so it's perfectly straight up and down. Kind of put it at the same angle as the radiator, and that way with the pivot in it, you'll be able to move it one way or the other if you have to make some slight angle adjustments on the radiator as it goes in. One other thing I'm going to point out, since we're doing a universal radiator, the inlet for the top is in a very precarious spot. The outlet on the other side, as I just showed you, where we have the tie wrap installed, is about where the older style, the AFCO radiator that Factory 5 used to supply as their Factory 5 radiator is. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a take on the Breeze / Boyd cool tubes. I'm going to order up some 1.5 inch stainless tubing. I do have the bead roller here in the shop, so I'll be able to bead roll the ends of the tubing. And I do have the bender, so that if I have to bend some small bends in the aluminum tubing or the stainless tubing, I can do that as well. However, this is the collection of cooling hoses that I picked up at O'Reilly Auto Parts this morning, because I'm not sure what I'm going to need to make it all work. And you can see where this one is here. I'm going to need not only to turn this up, I'm going to have to turn it in towards the center of the car, because I'm going right here. So I'm just going to have to get this thing in here and then kind of out and then aim towards that. So I'm hoping with that collection of tubes that I picked up, or hoses that I picked up at O'Reilly's, I'll be able to get that one to work. The bottom one is much more complicated because of where the thermostat housing is facing. It's actually facing towards the front driver's side tire. And so I've got to basically hook that thing back around towards the center of the car and then towards the front of the car towards the radiator. And I think I have one here that's going to do it. I think it's this one. I think this one right here is what I'm going to do. This top portion will come out of that thermostat housing and then hook around, and then this end here is going to send it towards the radiator. I'm hoping. So we'll see. This is the one I picked up for the bottom. This is going to go, this is even a different size. It's 1 3/4 inches at the bottom. So I'm hoping that this is going to go in the radiator here, and then we're going to be able to just take this. And how did I have that before? I think I had it like this. So something like this, and we'll probably cut it right here before this 90. And that'll send us back towards that thermostat housing. But right now, I don't know. I'm just going to have to start plugging these things in and seeing what I can make work, and then have to order up some of the 1.5-inch tubing. I'm probably going to need 2 or 3 feet of it. So I'm probably going to be into the tubing for about $100. But so that's what we're going to be working on. Okay, everybody, I've got this up on the lift. Just remember, this is a universal radiator. This is not the Factory 5 radiator. So it's not specific to the Roadster or the Coupe. And you're going to have to make concessions in order to make it fit with the Breeze upper and the Breeze lower support. So in order to get enough support on this lower lip, I went ahead and I added 2 pieces in the center of heater hose. And then because this lip is different and because the tanks are different on the side, I had to make a clip, an aluminum clip, for this center mount. But other than that, it mounts exactly the same, if that makes any sense, as the Factory 5 radiator would, with all of the Breeze front, upper and lower radiator support. I did get lucky on the hoses. It looks like hose number 21857 and hose number 21997, these are both Gates hoses, are going to be the winners, because I'm going to take this one, I'm just going to pull it a little bit this way, and I'm going to take this one and I'm just going to leave it just about where it's at right here. And you can see this one curves around and under my power steering hoses, which is fine. It'll give them a little bit of support. And then I'm going to cut this one off about here, and we're going to have a short section of stainless steel tubing from here to here. Haven't done anything with the upper ones yet, but I was really worried about these bottom ones because this is 1.75 inches and this is 1.5 inches. And so sometimes trying to adapt that, I didn't have a whole lot of options for this hose. I did have another hose here that had kind of the same configuration. The problem is it would have pointed me this way, basically straight towards the passenger side of the car. And I didn't think that was going to work, and I thought if I put it this way, it's going to be way too, I mean, you can see how low it would have been in the car. I'm sorry to bang the hoses against there, but anyways, so that's what I'm going to be working on probably over the next couple of days, getting all of these hoses done. Still have another hose back in here. Let's see if I can pull this off real quick. That is going to go to the So this hose right here, has got to go up to the bottom of our surge tank up here. So I'm going to try to find a hose that has a 90-degree angle here and then goes up, and then we can tie it into there. And then the last hose we have is going to be off the side of the radiator. Oh, let's see if we can get over there. The side of the radiator right there, you can see I've got a brass 90, and that's going to be our steam port, and that's the last hose that's going to tie into the coolant surge tank. So with all of those hoses taken care of, then we can go ahead and start putting some coolant in the system and then checking for leaks. As you remember, we've got that coolant crossover in the back of the heads, and I want to make sure that we don't have any leaks anywhere. So I want to check all that. I want to check all this with no pressure on it, just with the pressure of the actual coolant in the system before we fire it. And then we'll see if we've got any instance of leaks and take care of those and address them. And then hopefully this coming week we'll be able to turn the Holly system on, program the unit, and then fire the engine. So we'll see how all that goes. And I think what we're going to do today is I do have one piece of stainless tubing here, and I'm going to go ahead and make this either for the top hose or the bottom hose. I haven't decided yet, but we're going to measure this to length. We're going to bead roll the ends to put beads, and we'll get started on that. All right, it looks like this piece I've got is going to be about the right size. So I'm just going to put the beads on the end of it, and then I'm going to cut this side so that I can get it at the length that I want, and then we'll see about putting it together. So this is the bead rolling tool for the end of the tubing. You can see there's two dies, one inside the tube right now, and this is the one that's on the outside. There's a knob on the top. Do a couple revolutions, tighten up the knob, do a little more, tighten the knob some more, and eventually you'll get this profile of the inside of this die onto the tube. So it's not hard, it just kind of does this a couple times around. You'll see it loosen up, tighten up the nut on the top, a little more, and then slowly it just starts rolling a bead on the end of it. And all we're trying to do is keep that hose from blowing off once the clamp is tight. Alright, so there you go. We got to get some clamps on it. We've got this side all seated next to the radiator. Comes down in a nice curve into our stainless piece that we beaded on both ends. I'm going to pull these stickers off of the hoses so that down the line, if Michael has to replace one, he'll have a copy of what part numbers we used. I'm not going to show you the top one in this video because honestly I'm out of tubing. We've got some tubing on order. It should be here in the next day or two, and so I'm not going to bother. That'll probably just be in the next video, and we'll go ahead and close this one out. I went ahead and I prepped the two hoses for the top while I wait for the stainless tubing. So I cut the hose up here to length, and I did the same thing for the one coming out of the engine, so that as soon as I get the stainless tubing, I can cut the stainless tubing to length, put beads on the end of that, and then I can have the top hose all taken care of. I did find a hose for the steam port. I think I'm going to pick that up tomorrow, and I think I found one for the bypass hose out of the bottom of the surge tank that goes into the thermostat housing. So I'm going to see if I can order those tomorrow at the local parts store and hopefully pick those up the following day. But I think that's going to close things out for today. Oh, and I did add the engine oil today. So short of finishing the cooling system and a couple of last minute wiring details, I should be able to fire this thing up hopefully in the next week or so. So as always, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you're enjoying the content, do the like, the share, the subscribe, and if you have any questions, of course, put them down in the comment sections and we'll do everything we can to answer those questions. Until next time, have a great day.